So these GPUs are in stock. Why aren't people buying them? If you watch until the end of the video, I have something that I heard one of the store employees say. This is going to be very big and it could get even worse. Even though it looks great now, pricing, availability improving, there's something that may make this worse once again by surprise. So you're going to want to watch the whole video to check out what that is. So graphics cards are now in pretty abundant stock. I mean, look at the ones that they have in stock here. This is pretty much people's dream GPUs. Finally in stock at their retail price, in fact. Look at this one, for example. Very expensive. 3090 Strix, $22.99, but at least it's cheaper than the scalper price that used to be over $3,000 just a few months ago, and it's sitting in stock. Nobody's buying it at all. You could walk into this store and buy that GPU at what is that retail price. Now, of course, this is going to be considerably more expensive than the Founders Edition, which has an MSRP retail from Nvidia of $14.99, but you are getting an Asus Strix. In my opinion, it's worth probably a little more than a 3090 Founders Edition, but definitely not nearly $800 more, perhaps $200 or $300 at most if you really want to have an aesthetically Asus build. But this shows you how far that pricing has come since the originals were released. I can understand why this stays on the shelf, even though you could say, of course it's up on the shelf, nobody's buying it because it's too expensive. That wasn't true even a few weeks ago. If something like this was in fact in stock at a store, you can bet that they probably wouldn't even put it on the shelf because the demand was so high. It would most likely be in the back and you would have to special request it to be able to buy it, even at this price at $22.99. So definitely a pretty big difference here. And don't forget to smash that like button. They say every time you do, a GPU comes in stock at retail or even with a nice little discount. And if that 3090 Strix is a little too expensive for your budget, completely understandable. Nobody expected to pay $1,500 plus, never mind $2,000 plus on gaming graphics cards. I mean, look at last generation. 2080 Ti at $1,200 was already pretty expensive. I used to see the Kingpin edition at $2,000 for a 2080 Ti version, and even I would look at that and be like, that is way too much money for a graphics card. Now we see pretty much every 3090 around that price, and even some 3080 Ti's basically around $2,000. So if that's a little bit too expensive for you, they even had a 3070 Ti in stock. Priced pretty good is a Windows CD key. Today's video sponsor is going to be VIP-CDKdeals.com. Very simple process. You can get a Windows 10 Pro CD key and remember to use code CC20 for a nice discount. Now, we went over this GPU when Newegg had it, $699. So this one, $729, still not terrible. This very GPU was around $949 for the longest time, basically all throughout last year and up until about 2 weeks ago or so. This GPU, $949. So $729 for a 3070 Ti Asus TUF, very high quality GPU. You can imagine that anybody would be pretty happy with this. This is pretty much a high-end GPU at this point. It's not a 3080, but it performs pretty close, and it's going to be a fairly decent price. I had even seen an open box 3080 for around $830. So pricing and availability definitely better. I mean, if you're a gamer building a PC, you want a pretty high-end GPU, 3070 Ti for $729 is not bad at all considering everything that we've gone through during the last year. I mean, these GPUs at one point were pretty much almost $1,100 last year, and of course they dropped down to then under $1,000, and now they're hovering around $700. I don't think the price is going to go any lower than $699 retail for these type of GPUs, just because the Founders Edition is already $599, and that's pretty much the bottom price that you're ever going to see a 3070 Ti, even if the demand drops. So to pay around $100 to $130 more for an Asus TUF, that's a pretty good value considering the type of GPU that it is. So as we've been saying, prices are going down, availability is up, but prices are only going to go down so low to what around their MSRP should be. You shouldn't expect these to probably be anywhere close to what the original pricing was in terms of when it came out. For example, you're not going to see an RTX 3080 at $699 anymore because now there's a 12 gigabyte version. Some of these cheaper 3080s are going to be the older 10 gigabyte version. Nothing wrong with them, but they're going to be a little bit cheaper than the newer models, which generally are selling for upwards of $1,200, $1,300, $1,400. When they first came out, some models like the Asus TUF or Strix, they were even pretty much $1,500, but that pricing has been brought back down to reality because the 3080 Ti pricing has also come down. As you see the high-end GPUs pricing come down, you're going to see the regular level GPUs also come down, albeit by a smaller percentage, but it still indicates a much healthier market. It indicates that there's more stock available, and it's kind of weird that these GPUs are actually staying in stock for a pretty long time. Before, if one of these GPUs actually hit the shelves, you can bet that people would scoop them up within the same day. They wouldn't go to the next day, even if they are expensive like that 3090 that we mentioned in the beginning of the video. Now, Best Buy has also been doing drops. Some of their pricing has not been reflective of what's going on in some of these other stores online like Newegg, even the other Micro Center stores. Some of the Best Buy pricing has gone down, some really hasn't, and even the 3080 Ti TUF basically at the same price that it's been selling for the last few weeks, while other places have dropped it by $200 to $300. So if you guys are looking for a GPU, you really have to be careful because pricing is down, but not in every single place. And you could always check out like the secondhand market. Your friendly neighborhood scalper probably dropped his price as well. So it may be very close to MSRP if you can't find it in one of these stores. In the beginning of the video, I mentioned to you guys that I heard something from one of the employees there that may actually change the game. So right now we're seeing these GPUs in stock. Steadily we're seeing the prices come down on desirable GPUs. 3070 Ti, certainly a very desirable GPU, performs great at around $700. Very, very nice. Now, before, this store in particular, Micro Center, they had implemented a limitation on GPUs. For example, Nvidia and AMD, you were going to be limited to one GPU every 30 days. That was to keep everything fair. Now, if you bought one Nvidia GPU, that counted towards AMD. If you bought an AMD, it counted towards Nvidia. So it was basically one GPU per household for every 30 days. A little bit earlier this year, they actually lifted in many stores the restriction on AMD GPUs, meaning Nvidia, you still could only buy one every 30 days, but you could walk in there and theoretically buy 2 or 3 GPUs from AMD. That's because the prices were still very high. It was before they went down. If you guys saw my video from last week, 6900 XT went down from $1,669 all the way down to $1,099 and $1,049 after a $50 rebate. That's a massive drop of $600 for a 6900 XT, which is a fantastic high-end card. I mean, you can't even get an Nvidia 3080, one of the newer ones, for that price. So very impressive price drop there. But still, that doesn't. And judging by seeing stock numbers move online, they seem to have sold a pretty decent amount. Many more desirable GPUs went pretty quickly, especially as the price went down, especially that 6900 XT that I posted about. That one seemed to sell significantly well. If it had been on the shelves for weeks at $1,600 and nobody buying it, as soon as the price dropped that very same day, they probably sold at least 10 in one particular store. But what I heard from the employee there, he said that they're reinstating that AMD restriction. You may be asking why? Why are they doing that? Isn't availability better? You just showed us, a 3090 and a 3070 Ti in stock at their retail price. Why would they have to restrict AMD? Nobody's going to want to buy an AMD GPU unless they drop the price even more, which they haven't. It's fallen on some of them, but not all of them are really that low yet. And certainly the Nvidia GPUs are also priced very well. The prices did fall. So they said because of shutdowns happening over in China, they're sort of seeing that they're not going to be getting much stock during the next few weeks of GPUs. So even though it looks like we're in a pretty tranquil time in terms of, everything coming down with pricing and availability improving, it's very possible out of nowhere we could see stock pretty much disappear and GPU prices start to go up again. So does that mean that that's definitely going to happen? Possibly, potentially. It's going to depend on the demand. Does it mean that you buy a GPU now if you find the one that you want? If it's at the retail price and you're not getting ripped off a considerable amount and it's pretty close to what the MSRP should be, if you see it now, I think you should probably buy it because remember, even when Nvidia is going to release their RTX 4000, there's a good chance they're going to release them side by side with RTX 3000, meaning if you buy a 3070 Ti now, even in a year, that's still going to be a pretty modern GPU. GPU. It's not like it's going to be outclassed completely. And if it is, by whatever's in the RTX 4000, it's going to be A, very difficult to get the RTX 4000, potentially even more than the 3000 was. And then B, and you can count on this, it's going to be considerably more expensive than the RTX 3000 series. If you thought a 3070 Ti is expensive, imagine a 4070. You can bet it's going to start at a pretty considerably high price, and you may get more performance, and you're also going to have to keep an eye on thermals and various things like that. So while yes, it's going to perform better, it might even be considerably more expensive. So I don't think you're going to be too far off if you get a retail pricing GPU now. Of course, don't overpay by a considerable amount. Otherwise, I think you should be pretty good for years to come. So that's what I heard. I don't know if they're going to re-implement these AMD restrictions in other stores that removed them, but it's certainly very possible. It makes sense because they're doing these shutdowns in places that are pretty vital to sort of the manufacturing link with these GPUs. So definitely something that can happen. All right, guys, so let me know what you think. Do you think now is probably a good time to buy, that we can see them in retail and actually in stock? Or do you think you should wait it out longer and get closer to the new AMD, Intel, and Nvidia GPUs dropping so you can get a better price? Or things may get a little bit worse at that point. So let me know what you think. Very unpredictable, I know. Remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.